You're watching the news of the world with 5-time daytime Emmy Award-winning anchor Kevin Collins. Thanks, Bob. Tonight's top stories. Could the microplastics in your body be eligible for the return scheme? Irish singer-songwriter transphobe Róisín Murphy headlines music festival this weekend. And we'll be joining Bob Haggerty for the weather. But first, there was a time when the news came on at 6, sometimes 9, maybe 5, but it stayed there in its time slot and didn't try crawling into bed with you. Once passed from mouth to mouth like unwanted CPR, news spread through town criers and marketplace chatter. Advances in technology saw the invention of the carrier pigeon, able to carry news and histoplasmosis across the land. The printing press, the radio, the evening bulletin on television, to its ultimate crescendo, an experience we now live through our phones. But your news is not my news or that of anybody else's. News is personalized, tailored to us, supporting our worldview. War for breakfast, rape for lunch. If the news were a film, it would be 18 plus. Unlike a film though, the news is never ending, and it has real mental health implications. Today we're part of the news, sharing it, commenting on it, perpetuating it. Everyone can be a news anchor, even if only on the screen of their phone. And more often than not, what we see online is pseudo-news. It's news adjacent. It's there to generate clicks and revenue, emotionally charged to bait us so that others can profit from our anger. News is the machine, clicks are the currency, and we are the harvest. Our news is not impartial anymore. It's tailored to us and our beliefs, delivered by a supercomputer that wants to keep us scrolling. Don't put down your phone. What are you doing? Pick your phone up. The news is insidious. It's infesting social media, and the symptoms are outrage, division, and depression. In 2020, scientists monitored participants as they watched 100 horror movies in an MRI scanner, which is only mildly more preferable to watching a movie in the Omniplex. In short, our brains react to the threats in the movie as if they were real. That's why we jump during a horror film, even though we know Sidney Prescott will be fine. Now take the same science, take the same logic, and apply it to the news. These images casually dropped into our news feed. Imagine if World War II hadn't played out in Normandy or Berlin or the forests of Poland, but instead happened in your living room, every morning, every night, in full colour in your hand while you were eating your breakfast. That's the situation we're in today. Where could that anxiety be coming from? If our nervous system could tell the difference, then there wouldn't be a problem, but it can't. And so we must use our higher functions to regulate our news intake. We've brought the battlefield home and we're calling it being informed. But we don't need to know everything to care, and we don't need to see everything to be empathetic. Our phones, the internet, and social media have made us more connected than ever, yet more emotionally brittle than a set of fine china at Hyacinth Bouquet's house. We've pushed for freedom of expression, but now we struggle to tolerate perspectives that don't match our own. It's like casting a spell with unintended side effects. Sure, I want to be able to express myself, but I'm totally appalled that the people I disagree with can also do this. What a snafu. We are on the path of belief that our viewpoint is the only rational one, and anyone who disagrees with us is a threat. Manson's law of avoidance says that the more something threatens our identity, the more we'll avoid it. And today, for many of us, our identity is our ideology. Identity was a layered, evolving self made up of personality traits, values, quirks, experiences, and preferences. It was broad and flexible. We were once very malleable people with changing identities. Ideology, then, is what you believe, a structured set of ideas, often political or moral, that help explain the world. Those ideas are usually externally defined, and there's nothing wrong with ideology, but it makes a very poor replacement for identity. In an ever-increasing amount of people, ideology has rushed in to fill a void, but unlike tradition or culture, ideology doesn't offer depth, and unlike identity, your ideology can be challenged, creating even more anxiety. What? Where is all this anxiety coming from? It seems that humans were destined to worship, first the sun and the stars, then myths and gods, pharaohs, kings, and of course, if you were lucky enough to be Egyptian, maybe even a cat. Today we worship celebrities and ideology. Borders, bathrooms, flags, pronouns. Religion was flawed, but it often came with forgiveness, community, and a moral framework. Most religions, anyway. Ideology gives us none of that. We're leaning into a society of people hyper-orientated for their cause, but much more hollow than before. We're so busy reacting to things that we've lost a precious binding material. It's not gluten, I promise. It's nuance. What even was nuance? Some kind of French dance, perhaps? Well, the word does come from French, meaning an old wooden ship. No, I'm sorry, that can't be right. It means shade, or a slightly different color or tone, which is perfect because when we think of today, everything is so black or white, right or wrong, us or them. Nuance was the middle ground for all of this, but it's disappeared. And it's the next generation, the young people. Yeah, I know. It was a hard pill for me to swallow as well, but I don't think I'm the young people anymore. But the young people simply don't have the tools to deal with opposing viewpoints, and I'm afraid the world is full of them, and it always has been. Because at the end of our tips lies the beginning of a supercomputer, whose primary objective is to keep us engaged and online. Nothing in our feed is random. Yum, give me some of that tragedy. If it's the reason that you close an app and then you open it again immediately. One day scholars might call this behavior addiction. I think they might even call it addiction today. But I don't think that's entirely our fault, because traditional addictions were fair, right? It was you versus an object. Who will win, me or this 20 pack of Marlboro Gold? That was a level playing field. The Marlboro Gold aren't supercomputers, but our phone is. And now you've heard of an algorithm, unless of course you haven't, in which case it's a code that watches what you tap, what you scroll, when you pause, what you click, how you type. It builds a digital version of you. And then it feeds that version, like we feed our pets. We are pets of the supercomputer. Only we're not chowing down on Whiskas. We're being fed a diet of ads, content, opinions, and outrage. Never ending, always amplifying. And that's what we call an echo chamber. Your opinions echoed back to you like you're shouting into a cave, only the cave has advertising. This is when we start to feel like our worldview is the default mode for the universe, because that's all we see online. And if someone thinks differently, well, we think, well, geez, they must be broken. But those people, they are seeing the world through their algorithm. They feel just as righteous as us. They feel just as supported as us. We're all caught up in this. The same technology we built to help us thrive is now rewiring our brains, which is never a good place to be. Our shift to over-consuming news is being studied and has measurable effects on our brain's chemistry and wiring. In the short term, our brains respond to constant news updates with heightened emotional reactivity. The amygdala and the stress pathways activate, and attention networks struggle to cope. So again, really, where could all this anxiety be coming from? In the long term, our brain rewires itself, as it does with any repeated activity. These neurological changes mirror some of the aspects of addiction and chronic stress, and they're linked to mental health outcomes like anxiety, pessimism, and fatigue. The research is ongoing, but I don't think we need to wait for a landmark study to reduce our news intake. Every headline, every meme, every quote is designed to flatten complexity and charge us emotionally, and we're paying the price. People become symbols. A mother posted a comment on her personal Facebook, not viewable to the public, expressing her concern about children and medical treatments. It wasn't hateful or aggressive, nor was it intended for the public. It was just a viewpoint of a mother, not intended to cause harm or discourse. Unfortunately, intent and context have gone the same way as nuance. They're gone. There's no room for context when our worldview is black or white. Róisín Murphy apologized sincerely without defensiveness, and still, this wasn't enough. Her name burned off festival posters with lighters by embittered people, some of who are unfamiliar with hypocrisy, because there is an irony in believing in equality for all except a mother who shared a thought online. And it's okay to erase someone as long as your ideology remains intact. If an apology wasn't enough, and if repentance isn't accepted, what is actually being asked for? I think that's an important question. Is it alignment? Is it a shift in belief? A total renouncing of the thought itself? Maybe. The only acceptable response would have been, actually, I've totally changed my worldview off the back of your bullying and attempts to cancel me for expressing my thought, and now I pledge total allegiance to your ideology and have erased my original worldview. Maybe she should have just led with that, save herself the hassle. The next generation of society is being raised in this discourse, and it's not good, right? This is what's going to perpetuate to their children, and this is where we go from here. Discussion and conflict resolution is being replaced with cancellation. Empathy is being replaced with absolutism. Communication replaced with confrontation. All the while, we've become about as emotionally resilient as a feather. And it all comes back to the news. You wouldn't smoke 20 cigarettes a day, or maybe you would, but at least cigarettes come with a warning label. The point is, news is addictive like any substance, and it's doubly addictive because it's intertwined with our phone use. It doesn't even appear like news anymore. It sneaks in through our socials, X, Instagram, TikTok, maybe Blue Sky if you're in a different class. It's not even news in the traditional sense, it's pseudo-news, emotionally charged content and graphic depictions of what's happening in the world, and we're stuck in a loop, and most of what we consume is anxiety content, dressed up as information. The mental health of the nation is pretty bad. Constant digital alertness is part of the problem, and I don't want you to think the bad man is telling me to stop caring about the suffering in the world, but there is a difference between being informed and being infected. If you want to take the first steps towards regulating your news intake, then choose a reputable source, read it once a day, and if you really want to imbibe in some next level care, then buy a newspaper, you renegade. It has all of the news and none of the screen, which is probably the biggest advantage that you can get there. Mute friends who flood your feed with anxiety content, or anything to do with American politics for that matter. I might be slightly alone on that one, but we need bread, not circus, and that is just tragedy. This isn't about burying our heads in the sand, it's just about being selective with our attention. There's a difference between ignorance and boundaries. The algorithm doesn't see that difference, but we should. We must use our brain to help our other part of the brain. Outrage isn't wisdom and knowledge isn't the same as understanding. So stop living the news and start living ourselves. Let's start living. I think we can finish on that crescendo. Bob, over to you for the weather.
Thanks, Kevin. Grey skies, death and despair.
Bob.
Sorry. Well, in the northeast we have the future of Blackpool, a charming suburban village time forgot and planning has failed. In the sunny southeast, particularly around Rosslare, it looks like there'll be scattered showers with a chance of emigration.
That's good weather, Bob.